Or one of those shows.
You go. No, it's all right. Go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the shows recently. I went in a couple of different times, different browsers and everything. None of the host buttons were live for anyone.
Great.
So we had to delete it and recreate the event.
I had one like that the other night for some other reason, but let me get the show going.
Yeah, it seems like if you create the event on the day or like within 24 hours, I have so many more problems.
Right. So I'm trying to do it early. So, all right. We've kind of started anyway. Hey, everyone. It's time for Geocache Talk. Whether you're at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy this show about the great sport of geocaching. If you're watching on YouTube Live, you can be part of the adventure tonight. Please join us in the chat room and participate with us as everyone watches. And there's a link to the chat room in geocachetalk.com, the front page. If you kind of look down a little bit past the main items, you'll see a link, and you can click on that, and you can join us in the chat room. So that'll be great. And there went Jesse, but that's okay. We'll get him back in a minute. If you're listening later, please give it a like and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app that you can get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Trail Bugs for the music and all our patrons. It was wonderful to get to see so many. So Darryl, last week we had a little patron get together at Geo Woodstock, and it was kind of neat to. It's always cool to see people you've never met before in person.
Well, and the weird thing is, so many of these folks, we actually feel like we know them, and they're like long-term friends, and then you run into them in person, and it's like, yeah, that's not quite what I pictured.
Well, that, or they look at us and they look like they listen to us all the time, so it's kind of like they know us a little bit, and so I don't know, Jesse, did you? I had one patron come up to me and said, "Could you talk a little bit quicker? Because I'm used to hearing you talk loud, talk 1.5 speed or whatever." So
yeah, I'm guilty of that myself. I always listen to all podcasts at like the fastest I can possibly get them.
Right.
So every time I meet somebody in person, I'm like, oh man, this person's on drugs. They're talking super slow.
Talking super slow. All right. Well, so it was great. It was really really touching to get to see. We love all our patrons, but it was kind of neat to see a lot of patrons last week. So that was a lot of fun, and being able to doing the patron dinner went off like without a hitch, which is crazy for 60 whatever plus people in a restaurant, and it was a little loud. I know Jesse kept reminding me that half the room couldn't hear me talk as I was doing giveaways, but we got it worked out, and we gave away a lot of cool stuff, and we kind of combined our patron dinner with Joshua, the geocaching vloggers patron. So it was kind of neat having everybody together, and I think the patron dinner went fabulously. So we'll talk a little more about Geocache Talk.
Yeah, it was a blast.
It was. If you'd like to become a patron, head on over to Patreon, Patreon, in case you're wondering. Don't ask me why they don't have patreon.com, but that's for another show. That's for another show. Now we have glasses for that. So Patreon, patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get the new, I guess it's not really new, but you get a blackout coin. So, and last week when we did our live show, I had it somewhere. I don't know where it was. It was a whirlwind, but we actually had a patron had one in the audience, so they just held one up. So that was cool.
Yeah.
Other geocaching items during the year, the zipper pulls. I've sent out all zipper pulls. There's a zipper pull. So I still have some. So if you want to become a patron, you'll get a zipper pull.
Is that a zipper pull, or have we decided that's an earring now?
I think it's an earring. So earring.
Nose ring. We haven't seen it used as a nose ring yet.
Nose ring yet, but But anyway, I still have some while supplies last. I do have some zipper pulls left. So support levels start at as little as Bison Tube level, which is $3 a month. Well, let me welcome my co-host, Jesse.
I'm here and I haven't had to jump back off yet because of the Google. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. So.
That's right. And let's jump right into show 151 for June 2nd. Can't believe it's June already for this year. As we welcome back to the show, Darryl Wattenberg, DarrylW4. Welcome back to Geocache Talk.
Thanks. It's good to be back. And, it doesn't really feel like June around here, weather-wise. It feels more like May. And, of course, we had the perfect weather finally to go geocaching today. And I was stuck
at work
doing all the cables in the network closet.
Dang, work.
Yeah.
Work.
Paying the bills is so boring.
That's true. But, hey, it's good. It's better than, being completely out of trying to get work. So good. So, well,
until we can become professional geocachers.
Yes.
How to do it.
Right. That's Daniel Flieger over in Germany. Maybe we could be like him and have a staff and all that kind of stuff. It'd be great. So, well, we got a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm so glad Darryl is back. Speaking about it's our 3rd anniversary, which is kind of wild. We'll talk about the good old days and how we even got this started here in a moment. But one of the things that, we talked about as far as meeting people is Darryl and I, I've known Darryl for years now, but we finally got to actually be together was last year at Gigastock about a year ago. So, and got to hang out and talk and laugh and have some fun and eat some pizza together and
hang out all day at a booth and not really get to see each other.
No, that's true. That part. Well, that's why we did that's why we had our own little dinner. We had a little side dinner and, get to cut up and have some good time. But yeah, but that was fun. It was a fun event. And we won't talk a lot about Woodstock. We kind of covered a lot of that last week, but we'll talk maybe a little bit about it. But anyway, we're going to start with sort of the good old days and kind of go a little bit chronologic. Sort of, maybe, kind of.
We'll start off that way.
We'll start that way.
We're not going to stay that way.
We won't stay that way. But I do want to kind of mention a couple of things, and we'll talk about how this whole thing kind of came about. My very first podcast was June 7th. So I'm coming up on 4 years of doing podcasts. So it was June 7th, 2015. I was on Cache and Release number 14, so it was very early in the Cache and Release days. We talked about geotours. That was my first show, and then 4 shows later, with Michael Miller, I was co-host with him, and that was the start of my experience in Cache and Release. So if you want to watch some me crazy long time ago, seems like a long time ago, podcast, you might be able to find some of those out on YouTube.
Was that the first podcast you were ever on?
Yeah, first one ever on. Now I was in chat rooms. The very first podcast that I listened to, it wasn't Podcasters, surprisingly. It was actually the Geocaching podcast way back when, Darryl, you were on Geocaching Podcast.
Hey, I was on that show for almost longer than I was on any other show.
Really? Wow.
I've been podcasting for, 14 years now, I think?
Oh, my gosh. I can't believe it's been that long.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like something like that. And every 5 years, I tend to reboot whatever show I'm on. So
right.
Geo Gearhead's now at 7 years is the longest show that's been my production.
Right.
But yeah, Geocaching Podcast, I had jumped in early on with Xpunk X, and I hung in long after Andy Headhard Hat had taken over. But it got to be too much doing multiple shows like that.
Yeah. But so Jesse, that was my was listening to Darryl and and Andy Hardhat and Scott Burks. And I think at the time it was, who else was on there with you? It was,
we had a few, but I think if I
it was
remember, you
Stevens.
had Montu Ryder, I think, was on when you first started listening.
Could have been. Yeah. I remember
It was
Stevens
just
ad
X-Punk
infinitum.
X, that was later on.
Corey.
Yeah, Corey Stevens ad
Corey.
infinitum. That was later on, so that was after X-Punk X.
Yes.
Yeah.
I came about late in the learning of those. Of course,
I started listening to Podcaster and the Chicago Geocaching podcast first.
Mm-hmm.
A while back, but I don't remember what the first show was actually on.
Dichotomy there. You've got
Scott and Walt.
Scott and Walt versus Sonny and Sandy.
It was very different. The two were. It was.
You got a nice, tightly produced family show versus
and PG-13.
I was on a couple shows, but there's no way for me to even go back and check without doing a lot of research, and that wasn't going to happen tonight. So
no, that's okay. So anyway, fast forward a little bit to the end of Cache Release. Michael Miller wanted to let that pod fade. I learned that term from Darryl. So I think it's still called pod fade, right? When a show,
yeah, they're still calling it pod fade.
Pod fade. So it pod faded, and that was right before show number 1. And for me, what I wanted to keep going, and so I wanted to create a show. And who do I call? I call Darryl. It's like, Darryl, what do I do? And Darryl helped me through all the ins and outs. And let me tell you, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, it might be a little easier nowadays, but there's a lot to think about. And a lot of things you have to get set up. So depending on where you're going to be.
Though, because I just saw an Apple commercial that says you can instantly do it from an iPad now. That's all you need.
Instantly.
Well, they did it in like 3 seconds. I saw the little finger move around the screen and they had a podcast going. So I think y'all are all tricking everybody.
We're all tricking everybody.
Well, it gets a lot more complex if you want more than one person.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
But back in the day.
They left that part out of the commercial, though.
Yeah, they did. Probably also the fact that what are you going to call your show? Do you want Twitter with that? Would you like some Facebook groups created? Where are you going to host it? Are you going to do Libsyn? What was the thing we did first off too, Darryl? There was a thing that we were using.
Or are you talking about Podbean?
No, because I use Podbean. Now we went with Podbean. No, remember there was this thing where you could do. Let me think about this a minute. Couple things I did. One is I didn't use Libsyn. I used a different roundabout way of doing it where it was free. But then there was
doing the archive.org route.
Yeah. I was doing archive.org and then
just to host the files basically, but then you need someone to host your RSS.
Correct. Yeah. And then I finally, back then, I don't know about today, but setting it up on iTunes was a beating. I mean, it was a beating setting that thing up.
It's a lot easier now for sure.
Is it? Okay, well, good. Yeah. So
I said we just switched to MySpace.
MySpace. So June 12th, 2016. I actually did a show 0, but we don't count that. The first show 1, of course, I had to have Darryl on because I had no idea. I kind of knew what I was doing, but not really. Sorta. And so and we did show 1, and it turned out, and then we were off and running. But I always appreciate and have always been able to keep up with Darryl, and so it really meant a lot to me, Darryl, that you were willing to help and not just go, hey, dude, just go look on Google and figure it out yourself. So,
well, and I don't think there was any hiding or any attempt to even hide that I was on the first show in part to be tech support.
Right, you were. That's true. I think I even maybe mentioned that. It's like Darryl's on the show, right, as a guest and to help me figure out how to do all this. But it worked out great, and we're going to talk about several of the shows, and then kind of as we're leading up to sort of memorable highlights, I guess. And so I want to point out a couple shows. I'm not going into a lot of detail because we had a lot to talk about tonight, but I do want to kind of point out a couple highlights. One is Jesse's first show on Jesse's first appearance was show 11. And what's funny about that is you weren't scheduled to be on show 11. Chris of the Northwest was supposed to be on. He did get on the show, but he was having trouble. And so I actually reached out to Jesse. I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He goes, "I'm just about to listen to your show." And I go, "Funny you should say that. Could you join us for this? Because I don't know when Chris is going to get on here." So anyway, so Chris did eventually join. It's just show 11. You were asking Jesse about which one.
Yeah, I knew it was earlier on, but I wasn't sure which one was the first because that happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was planned.
Right.
Like, hey, can you get on Blabber for a little while? Yes, I can.
So that was fun. Yeah, because Jesse had been on Cache and Release as well. I don't know if Michael Miller asked you about that, but and the other last ironic thing about Cache and Release is I found out about Cache and Release because I always listen to Gearheads and go out to their website, and Gearheads had a list at the time of different shows, and that's where I found Michael Miller's, and so there was kind of a link there. So there you go. And so another couple items. I had gotten in touch with Chris Williamson probably back about the same time that Jesse was on, because I'd heard about this movie Treasure that was coming out and wanted to find out more and see if maybe, because as Darryl knows, have done this for how many years? You said 14 years.
14, I think.
14 years, and quality, by the way, my friend, quality.
Thank
you. You don't just throw it together and go, oh, it's Wednesday. Who are we going to have on Sunday? Or for you, it's like, oh, it's Monday. Hey, we got a show Thursday. Wonder who should we have on. There's planning. You got to plan these things. And so I was always, because it was early on, and I'm like, okay, I've gone through some friends, and now I need to figure out how to keep this thing flowing and get some decent, shows going. And so I talked to Chris, and sure enough, we got Chris Williamson on the show 19, in case you're wondering, October 16th of 2016. We had him on. And then another highlight was our first 8-hour, even in the notes, it doesn't even say Podcast of Hope. It just says 8-hour charity podcast, which was December 4th of 2016, show 26. I can't believe that it was that early, but it was early on. And we called it Podcast of Hope. Mm-hmm. Darryl was on that show. We talked about, and you did a couple Podcast of Hopes where we did talking about winter, what do we call it? Winter gadgets, things you could buy for the holidays.
I think we did it as two separate ones. We had the gadgets, and then we also talked about winter caching. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, we did that. That was kind of
gift
fun.
ideas.
Gift ideas, for the holidays. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
Christy and I were on that show too, right?
Yeah.
You
I can't remember what our topic was though.
I have to go back and look. I think you did later. Didn't you do a? You did the 11 o'clock show we did a
year? Late one. I don't know how you suckered us into that one, but we did a late show, and it's later here too. So
no, it's earlier there.
Later here than other parts.
Yeah, well, true. Then last year we did it well because we had all the West Coast people on, so it worked out great. But
yeah.
So anyway, there've been several, and then another one I'll point out, and then we'll start talking about some of the shows that Jesse was on, obviously from that point on, and that was show 37 on February 19th of 2017. Show 37 was the first show where I had first co-hosts. At the time, it was Jesse, and we had Sydney Sawyer. Sherman Air 18 was on, so we had the three of us for a little while. But that was Jesse's first co-hosting role, and thankfully, he's been here ever since.
That was the episode that we went all 2020 on it and did the hidden people.
Yeah, which is a lot of fun. We changed their voices and waited, but people guessed it pretty quick.
It's cachers; they figure out puzzles in their sleep. I mean, we're not going to trick them, but it was funny anyway. So
yeah, it was. Yeah, the chat room was blowing up. Oh, it's Jesse. I could tell. It's like I would be no, not sure who the answer to that
Turns
question
out
is.
Voice changer does not take out Southern accent. So
yeah, so it worked out. But so I do also want to point out guest appearances because, of course, the guy who leads the pack asked me again this week. Hey, I'm. How many times have I been on? Because I think I'm in the lead. It's like Joshua, the geocaching vlogger. Yes, my friend. As best as I can figure it out, and because Podcast of Hope kind of messes things up because we do several hours. We do 8 hours, and I kind of went back and looked, and it was actually 12 shows that Joshua's been on. If you count the varying hours that he's been on for the various Podcast of Hope shows that we've done.
Well, normally we shouldn't count that. I think because it's Podcast, I hope we counted anyway.
Yeah, we did. And I'm probably off on you, Darryl, but you're second. At least 6. Let's put that.
Yeah, at least 6. I'm not sure either because I know there's been 2 Podcasts of Hope and now 4. We'll call them anniversary shows, even though the first wasn't, I guess, a true anniversary.
Right. 0 anniversary.
I could swear that there was 1 or 2 others in there. I just can't think for the life of me what they are.
Yeah.
So here's what we can do. We'll just make Joshua mad. You can just pop in for 5 minutes every once in a while just to get ahead of him.
Just get ahead.
And drive him crazy.
Go, hey, he's been on longer. So
hey, you guys are recording when it's night out here. Maybe we do a regular night caching episode or segment.
Josh was in the chat room. He already heard us. So,
that's not good.
He put up the trophies. Good thing he's not competitive.
Yeah, he's emojiing trophies. I love it. So another couple notable people, and then we're gonna get into some other topics. But Electric Water Boy, I don't know if he's in the chat room. I didn't pull the chat room up. I think Jesse, you're
he's in there.
That. Brotherman's been on at least 4 times. Puzzle shows and talking about it's more than that, but because he's done some puzzle shows with us and also talking about Texas Challenge and of course this year Geo Woodstock. We did a couple Geo Woodstock Fort Worth shows. Land Monkey's been on quite a few times as well, at least 4. Land Monkey was on early on. We did a Slinky Monkey show. That was fun with he and his wife. And Jay's been on for Earth Cache Talk, and which is very popular.
One of our most popular shows.
It was.
It's still in the top 10 easily.
Yeah, it really was about how to submit an Earth Cache. That was a lot of fun. Dee's been on several times. Chris Williamson, of course, and Craig Michelle from Australia has been on several times, and we've had a lot of people. And there's a myriad of people that have been on twice. I couldn't even list all the people that have been on twice, and of course, a lot of people have been on one time.
Joshua is singing in the chat room that he is the champion.
He is the champion. Yeah, he is. He is for now. So we'll see.
When he was typing that, he was actually singing it too.
Right.
There's no doubt.
Exactly. So then, 1 year anniversary. Darryl was back on. That was June 4th. It doesn't always fit the timing wise sometimes, but
I tend to go by the numbers because 52 weeks in a year, so really it should be like 153. So it makes it a little easier to figure it out, but it never hits on the right date.
No, it doesn't. And so, it really just kind of like, it's close enough. It's been a year. We'll do it. So, yeah. So, and then of course the second anniversary show. So 1 year was June 4th. And then a second anniversary show was the second anniversary show was last year, and we did it May 27th. And you're right, Daryl. We did that show, and then we did a recap show of Geo Woodstock, Gigastock.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So we had that as well last year. But another couple quick notes, and then Jesse's got a couple favorites he wants to talk about too. But the big reveal, we did a Go Big or Go Home last year event. It was mixed, I guess. Jesse, you think it was
fun for us because we were in on the secret for so long, planning that show, not just that show, but that was a series of shows, right? So that was kind of fun. It was a good experiment for what we could do. We had to keep it domestic, and it'll be different in the future, hopefully, as we do it again. But that series of shows leading up to that show, that was a lot of fun for us. And I think some people had a lot of fun in it. It was limited in scope as far as who could actually go after them, but that was fun. It was a secret within a secret game. So that was kind of fun.
Right. Yeah, I think it had a lot of positives to it. Like you said, it was domestic. We're hoping to do more of an international, worldwide. We're actually, Jesse and I are doing some planning, but the idea of hiding, we hid 6 stashes, we called it, like the good old days. Instead of geocaches, we had stashes.
That's right.
Geocache Talk stashes. 5 of the 6 were found, and we didn't give any coordinates. There was no lat long. We just gave clues, like the good old days of
like letterboxing style.
Yeah, letterbox style. And 5 of the 6 end up being found.
So California never got found?
California's never got found. In fact, that was heavily searched by Derek Baker's family. But the problem is they had reported that strip of highway where Sodak Zach had hid that stash had been completely redone. And so we're thinking that it got wiped out with the maintenance. And that's the thing with doing something of that nature is, I mean, we each hid our stashes months before it was found. And so, there's no way to tell if those things were going to be, it's like a cache. I mean, how often have we've all seen.
Right. Well, the 4 of us drove all over the country to hide them, and then we had to wait months to help anybody even start going to find them in areas where there were floods and fires and everything else. So the fact that 5 out of 6 were found, I am pleasantly surprised that turned out that way. So that was
right.
Great.
Yeah, burnt turtles found Sodak Zach's on the ground near what he thought was the correct place. Because again, we're not giving coordinates. So, and then the one that Pathfinder 33 found up in the tree in Arizona, it had been up there for so long that the sun had faded part of the bison tube. The other whatever part was facing the sun was faded. The other part was red. The other part was all gone.
And that was part of the clue, the color of the bison tube.
Right, which half of it was gone. But a unique idea. I mean, it's fun to do. And then my last highlight I want to mention was, of course, the third Podcast to Hope, which was show 127 this past year. It was June 2nd. Unfortunately, Darryl couldn't make it, but hopefully you'll be. I'll try to get you the date in December this year, and hopefully you can make this year's Podcast to Hope. But appreciate you being on.
Yeah, I always love being on, but there's like usually 1, maybe 2 weekends in December that I can't do.
Yeah, that get stuck. So
yeah, exactly.
I know. So all right, Jesse, what are a couple of yours that you went through when you went through the show notes and looked? What are some?
So I wanted to take credit, because we got virtuals brought back out. So I was going to bring that one up, but
yeah, we did. we had those.
I had fun talking about the history caches for a while. It was kind of exciting, coming up with ideas of what that could look like if they came out with a new icon type. And then that kind of went away because virtuals came back out for a little bit. So it was no longer speculation. It was a real thing. People could actually get virtuals again. So that was a fun little series that we had. But I think my favorite shows have been the ones where I mean, I love all the guests that we've had on, but I also like whether a guest is on or not, when we get to discuss or have a debate on something, because that's kind of the geocache talk, right? Talking about geocaching with people that are deep in the game. And I think one of them was show 135, Nano versus Ammo Can. That was one you called Battle Royale.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun.
David versus Goliath.
Because no matter what we said, there was going to be people disagreeing with us. So that's always fun when you know people are going to naturally disagree with you on certain things. Some people will be all for it. Some people are going to disagree. There was no way we could have given an answer for that show that would have pleased everybody, which is great. That speaks to the whole game of geocaching as it is. And then we did another one, show 44, DT ratings. Let the loud shouting begin. We knew that was going to be contentious, and there were some big disagreements in the chat room that night. So that was a lot of fun. I think people enjoyed that. And once again, it was talking about geocaching from the perspective of it's different in different places. And the three of us on the show tonight are in very different areas of the country. And I would suspect, we're not going to, but I would suspect if we got onto that topic right now, we could talk for the next 3 hours about how different it is. How what a terrain 5 looks like in Texas versus Colorado versus somewhere over in Germany. You know what I mean? We could have that big discussion constantly.
Or even by Darryl. I mean, Darryl, around you, I know that being where you live, you have a lot of urban obviously around you, but is there
a lot of urban hides? There's lots of woodsy hides, but we have different challenges in hiding with the humidity. We don't have the heat necessarily, but we have the humidity, kind of like Florida-ish weather, and we get the freezing. So no matter what, it's a lot of trouble. We're kind of having these kind of discussions with GSM times 2 on Geo Gearheads this week. What works well in some areas doesn't in others. And this is what I found. I think it was 1,800 plus caches that he's hidden. Here's the set of rules that he kind of works by for his caches. And it's great. It works well for him, but like Altoids don't work at all out here.
Well, and he's in California, so it makes it kind of a different I don't know if Scott's
exactly. And he's in a more dry region of California, and they don't get the freezing either.
Completely different. We had a good discussion / debate about T5, and Jesse was like, no, a ladder is not special equipment, and I said it is in Texas. In Texas, that's special equipment, man. And it's like, no, that's not special equipment. You need a boat.
It's not special equipment along the lines of scuba gear. You cannot say that those two things are the same. However,
they're not.
I did concede that in many situations, a ladder could be considered specialized equipment, but it is what it is.
It's funny though. Even down here, there are some cachers who are really into tree climbs, and they're into all kinds of stuff. And when you get into, and Darryl, you probably have people up your way too, they're like, if they're into tree climbs, a tree climb to them becomes like a T3 or 2.5, but
it depends on the climb.
It does. Well, or it depends on the cacher too, because I see that, I'm like, no, that terrain's a lot higher than it should be a lot higher. That was fun.
We've got Tom Brotherman and Cache Line talking in the chat about we're going to rehash that show now, but talking about the snow changes the E5s, and it's entirely true. We have caches up here that you need the boat. It's kind of tough to get to it in the right season, but when it freezes, you just walk out and grab it. How do you do a terrain for something like that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Should they?
Well, it's so subjective. You can't, and place dependent. You can't. It won't be the same everywhere, at any time and ever.
Well, so my rule of thumb is you rate it as the worst of the terrains that it probably could be.
That's a good thought. I like that, Daryl. I like
Because that way
idea.
you might be over promising a exciting terrain, but at least no one's ever going to be caught off guard.
Yeah, that is the safer way to do it.
Yeah.
It makes sense because if you gave it a T2 and you told people, oh, well, you can walk to it during when it's iced over, you're like, it's not iced over right now, so why is it a T2? You know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you'll have people down to their skivvies waiting across and
right.
Sending glows to caching in the Northwest.
Right.
By the way, Crystal, I'm in Michigan, Metro Detroit area, if that's any easier for you.
That might help. Yeah, Metro Detroit.
So kind of to sum it up for me on the favorite shows, I would say it's the discussion shows. I like to get into deeper discussions about things, especially when there's not an easy answer. Like, the classic GPS versus smartphone. Well, we can't have that discussion because we're both smartphone cachers, right? Maybe like smartphone, show's over. See you later, guys.
Yeah.
We got to find those topics that are different. And when we do find those, I think those are some of my most favorite shows to do because our chat room gets deep into it. So,
yeah. And which kind of leads to my next little bullet point is I want you to kind of comment on how you feel like the chat room over the past couple years that you've been on, or even when we've kind of really involved the chat room, I think more than we used to. So I guess I don't want to feed you with info on that.
So
just tell what you think.
I get to hit the chat room and hit the show, obviously. I love the chat room. I know that nobody gets to see that really if they listen to the audio podcast later. So that's really only for the live show, but it's scrolling through here now like fast. So some topics I can't even keep up. It's hard to keep up with the chat room. But it's grown. It's the same, it's a lot of the same names over and over. We get new people in the chat room too, but quite often you'll have either somebody new to the chat room, and I've never seen anybody flame anybody else. I've never seen anybody be rude. And they'll ask a question often for a guest. We'll either ask the guest a question, but half the time, if it's something that's general knowledge or something that's not specified for that guest, the rest of the chat room jumps in and goes, "Oh yeah, this is how you find that information." It's a really educated chat room. But Tom says type slower so Memphis can keep up. Sometimes it's just about like that. But the other thing is, like, there's names. If you were able to see the chat room right now, and there's probably 12 or 15 names in here that we got to actually meet in person this last weekend. Right. And how cool is that, right? We've been talking to them online for a couple of years now, and it's really like family. The chat room has really become, and I know people throw family around a lot, but it's really become like a family. This is people you talk to every week. There's you don't even necessarily get to talk to all your family every single week. And we get to talk to them live every single week. And the chat room is really, they even came up with a drinking game in the chat room. You got that mug still, don't you?
I do. I have the glass right here. Yeah.
That was created by a patron in the chat room.
Right. That's for another show.
It's based on a game that they made up based on the show. The chat room of the show.
For sale soon. I'm working on the web store. I've got a couple items in the web store, just FYI. The earrings, if you don't have one and you'd like an earring or
nose ring
or a zipper pull. And then of course the card game is out there. The GC World card game is also available. We're going to have the glasses, limited amount, at least for now, till we can figure out what to do more on that. But we have a few glasses that'll be available for sale. And then we also are going to have shirts. So Darryl, we gave away, tell me if this doesn't sound like something you've seen before. So we gave away free shirts. And there was a feeding frenzy like no other that you've ever seen before. Well, we've all seen it if you get free stuff, but we took it to the brewery event on Thursday at Geo Woodstock, and I foolishly did not set aside a couple of the shirts, and it was like they're all gone. It was like, whew, just like the box was spinning empty in the brewery, and it's like, I looked at Jesse. I was like, I guess all the shirts are gone now. Yep,
Well, the
they're all
hardest
gone.
part is keeping that swag around for the archive so that you can always refer back to it.
Right.
It's just there's always, I really got to get this one person another one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I tried to limit that a little bit.
Yeah,
but
we wanted to save some to give them out to certain people, and it was gone quick. And
gone.
And then we ended up with
the problem
smaller shirts, right? So kids came up. We're not going to tell a kid no.
But the problem is when you start saving them, then it's all of a sudden, okay, well, now I have none to give away because I'm saving them all for these other people.
Right. Yeah.
So it's, there's just no way to win.
6-1.5.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to,
either you keep them all or you give them all away.
Right. Give them all away. We did. We gave them all away.
We did. We just gave them all away.
Which is the more fun answer.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, but we're going to get more. We've already got another same color, same everything. We're just going to do a whole nother order. And we're going to sell them, for, basically what they cost us, plus a buck or two, just to kind of cover everything. But anyway, so that's coming up. All right. So I do want to mention next, and then we're going to kind of get into some other items. Last mention of sort of the Wayback Machine as we talk about things. And that is, we've kind of built this, what we're calling, of course, the Geocache Talk Network. And it really is kind of a different animal, I think, than we had originally, I think, foreseen. But, we've got Jesse and I, now Jesse, you've done blogs with a B before, but we both didn't feel comfortable managing a blog, but we wanted to have a blog. So originally we had Sarah McClarkey. She's the geocaching junkie, and she handled it for a while. And then she had a wedding coming up and stuff. So we reached out and we found Geocaching Janji, and she took over, and she's done it. Both of them did an incredible job, but Angie has done an incredible job handling our blog. She's our blog manager. Doesn't mean she writes them all. And then we told her, we don't want you to write every blog, but we want you, if you can, just to sort of, manage it. She ran to that idea. She loved it. So she did a great job. She's done incredible. She has found, a lot of people have sent, and if you're interested in doing a blog, send a note to us either, send it to geocachetalk@gmail.com, and we'll get you in touch with Angie. She's done fabulous. And I've really enjoyed having different guests sort of do the blog. And she's really, she jumped in, she does all that work for us, and it's been great. So she was kind of,
go ahead. Just adding into the blog world, we could do topics like that too, but that would be really taken away from the show. We wanted to be able to provide that venue for people that have that one blog they want to do.
Right.
It is really a task to blog every week, every month, consistently like that. And some people just want to tell a few stories. So I think she's done a great job of getting those people's stories up, because, not everybody wants to do a full-time blog and commit that much to it, but those couple stories have been really unique and good on that blog. And she's done a great job with that.
She has been great. We added Sodak Zach, which ironic. What's funny about that is that I kind of got the idea, Darryl, from Geocaching Podcast. If you remember when, I think it was Scott Burks, and remember y'all did a glimpse. Remember Glimpse?
Yep. I still actually use that occasionally.
Do you really? So,
yeah.
But it was a great idea. They did a show on the Geocaching Podcast where Burks was was going to be out at a park, I think it was.
Well, we actually had him and Stephen item.
Yeah,
but I think his didn't work right.
No, but
he couldn't get enough signal, I think.
Yeah, that's the risk with experimental technology, right?
Exactly.
but it was cool, and then I was really neat to as he was walking around and finding caches or attempting to find caches at this area, you could see where he was kind of going. He's like, I'm going over here, and you guys were talking to him. So that was kind of the idea behind the man at the cache. And so we've been able to have Sodak Zach do the man at the cache, and have enjoyed his crazy antics of doing man at the cache segments for us, joining the show and doing a quick man at the cache. So that's kind of where that came about. And then recently we added a couple more affiliates. We've added Jeff May, Cache the Line in Canada. So our first international affiliate. We got to hang out with Jeff last week. He drove, I don't know, Darryl, if you heard about this. He drove all the way from Canada in a very, geocacher. He's going to go, he went all over. He ended up at Burks' house.
Oh, wow.
And then worked his way all the way down, even though he avoiding tornadoes and floods and everything else, made it all the way to Fort Worth. And then he sort of worked his way all the way back to Canada. So, but he's made it. And, but yeah, we added Jeff, and we added Katie Howard, Geocaching Katie, to the show. And it's been good. I think it's kind of it's been neat to have some people that are affiliated with the show and do different things. So kind of, I guess, Jesse, that was sort of one of our little cooked up ideas, and I think it's worked well.
Yeah. And, that's really just beginning too. So people haven't really seen what we're going to do with that yet, because we had the mega to go to this last weekend. And before we move past it, I really kind of want to, I know we just touched on it, but the live show, that was very new for us. I know other people have done live shows in the podcast world, but it was brand new for us. We had a blast doing it. And without getting deep into that, I think that's one of those things we'll be talking more about when Darryl's on a year from now. Hopefully you're on more than that, but when Darryl's on a year from now to talk about the next anniversary, I'm hoping the live show becomes something that we've done more of. Yeah. So we'll get into that in the future, whatever, but I hope this is one of those, hey, remember the first time we did that? And we get to do more of those, because that was a blast to have that immediate feedback and see people in the audience and get to have fun and see actual faces and stuff. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, because year we'll be talking about the live show for the 2020 events.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. Coming up.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
and maybe some others. Who knows? There may be some others in the works as well.
Yeah, but I want to specify it's live show with studio audience, because we're live each week. But I knew what you meant. You just wanted to point out that
we used to call them the road shows for Geocaching podcast.
Road shows. There you go. Yeah. And so it was neat to do a live show where I could say something in the crowd, the crowd, yay, kind of crowd, gets excited. So.
And one more thing before we move on to, so in the chat room, it was a few minutes ago, but this is the first chance to bring it up. So we haven't really talked much about Podcast of Hope, and we're going to do that in another show when we announce the next one coming up. That's show. That's for another show.
It's for another show. Right,
but Bounce,
yes,
offered in the chat room to build one of the puzzle boxes that he makes.
Oh, cool!
To donate for Podcast of Hope.
Oh, awesome!
That is awesome. And anybody that hasn't seen those, I mean, you have to have seen them. We got to play with 2 of them this last weekend.
Yep.
They are so cool. There's nothing like that out there. They're very, very cool, and we'll talk about that more in the future. But the fact that he's willing to donate something like that for the podcast to raise money, that's awesome. Yeah. And we'll get into that in the future. Again, that's for another show, but I didn't want to pass without the opportunity to thank him for being willing to do something like that. So
yes. Yeah. Thank you, Bounce. Yeah. We've, and that's the thing, really, we don't, like you said, we don't really have time tonight to get into a lot of that, but Podcast of Hope is really, we had Cash Advance, who's not really one of our normal sponsors, who wanted to jump in and go, hey, we'll give away a cache crate. And it's like, oh man, that's awesome. So it's like, they have they have all their things going on, and but they're willing to kind of cross over and help with that. And I've seen a bunch of St. Jude commercials lately on YouTube, and it's really made me think about how it's been great to raise money for St. Jude. But yes, want to take a moment to do a quick commercial. I'm not putting commercials at the beginning of the show anymore, but I do have an interesting one that I think we can all discuss briefly. In fact, I'm going to do a screen share because I want you guys to find out, and for the show people to find out about this. But let me hang on. Let me make sure it's just on me so we don't get bouncing around. There we go. All right.
The infinity loop.
Yeah, well, I want to make sure it's on me only so it won't bounce around. But so we haven't really even got into 20 years of geocaching celebrations for next year. But our sponsor, AMS Travel Sales, has put together a item for people who are interested. There's going to be an Alaskan geocaching cruise next year, and it's going to be prior to everything that's coming out. So this is kind of a cool item. It's August 7th through 14th, and you can go on this geocaching cruise, and if you go out to amstravelsales.com, you can find this page about this. But they made it in such a way that it fits. You'll be back in time for the 20th anniversary event on the 15th. So this is kind of a cool thing that they did in case you want to, you can kind of pick and choose what you're wanting to do next year for the 20th anniversary. But this is kind of neat that they've added this as an item to the possibilities for the.
Well, it shows they know what's going on in geocaching, right? I mean, yes, they do cruises, and yes, they work with us, but look how quick they're looking forward to doing some stuff for the 20th anniversary. They're building things that cachers actually want to do. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And the cool thing about AMS Travel Sales is that they do stuff on board the ship. It's not just, it's a geocaching trip. We'll see you when we get to a port and we'll go find a cache or two. They actually plan for a lot of on the ship things that you do together. Like last year's Cache the Waves, they actually did puzzle cache. They had kind of a whole thing going on board the ship. And then, of course, they did find lots of caches once they left the ship. But anyway, wanted to point that out, AMS Travel Sales.
And we'll put that link in the show notes too, right?
Yep. Links in the show notes for that. So, all right. So
I just, I've already decided I'm probably going to have to take off all of August this year. Because there's too many things going on before, after. There's a whole week of stuff going on. I mean, it's just.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You think I can put in for a month off and say it's a geocaching? It's like a big holiday. We have to do it for August.
I don't think that's going to work.
No. Well, if we lived over if we lived where Holo Jussi lives in Finland, you can maybe get more time off being in, the Europe.
He was here for like over a month. And he's still working on it.
Yeah, he went to Alaska. Darryl, you're going to love this. This guy, with one of our friends we met from Finland, he'd gone to Alaska to get his 50th state, even though he's from Finland. He's making all of us look bad.
He was like, I found all your caches. I'm leaving.
Well, it's so sad because you look at, most of us here, it's like we can't get away, in the States, can't get away for like more than a week. Yeah. Sometimes you can get a second week, but usually you can't get away from the office for more than a week.
Yeah.
In Europe, these guys are like, oh, we're going to take 3 or 4 weeks because, that's our normal vacation. Like, wow.
The CFO just denied my August off. So she's around. So,
all right. Well,
but this reminds me a lot of what was happening at the 10-year. And I don't think either of you were at the 10-year celebration, the geocaching. No, I think the Groundspeak
Lost and Found, or
no, there were the Lost and Found events, and then there was the Groundspeak celebration, which was the original block party. Right, the block party was until the next year, which is a different story because I never got the block party icon, and I thought I had.
Right,
it was a special one, but yeah, there was a couple of cruises, and I think Landsharks might have actually done one of them. because I can't remember who the two sponsors were, but one was
Right.
like a Canadian company, and another was a company out of the Midwest had done the cruises. Like one was the week before, one was the week after, and ironically, they all seem to go to Alaska.
So, do you think, or how many, if any, geocachers will be celebrating their 20th birthday at the same time as geocaching is celebrating their 20th anniversary?
Ooh, that's a good question.
There's got to be some that were born on that day.
I've thought about that, and it's not a question I like to think about much because, well,
they're old.
I know a few geocachers who aren't even as old as the sport are. Yeah, so
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of them in my house, so. But there's got to be somebody. There's got to be some geocachers out there where they're born on that same day.
Right. No,
I see. So celebrating the on the May 1st.
Right. So they were born. They were born on May 1st or 2nd,
2000.
Right. 2000. Now they're going to be May 2nd, 2020. Celebrating. Yeah.
That'd be pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of young.
You needs to give them a special gold membership.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I think that there's a lot of possibilities. In fact, let's talk about a couple of those. Let's start with things that we've seen over the past 3 years. If you guys can think of anything, I know Darryl brought one up pre-show that he wanted to mention that really could be its own show. But talk a little bit about, because we got busy talking about it beforehand, because I'm getting like just in the talk we just had, oh my gosh, I'm getting like more and more, which is fine. I'm not complaining, but it's just amazing how many travel bug not scans, but trackable finds that I had. I know Jesse, you had some same time I did, but that's something that's really, that's something that really, your leg. Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that, but that I think has changed. Do you guys think things have changed over the past 3 years
with the trackables? Not as much in the last 3 years, but it has become much more popular to do the discoveries in the last few years.
No, I agree.
And that's largely because of the TB Scan app, originally for iOS, now available for Android, and also the Geo Live app on Android enabled it. So you have this quick and easy way to do the OCR, but even more than that, it's build a quick and easy list that you can go and discover.
Right.
How many people did you used to see running around the lots at a mega event with the notepad open, whether it's digital or not, writing down each of these trackables, or just they go out and they take the photos and then they do it afterward. Now it's just the app, so you see people doing it. I admit that I like doing it and checking out all the trackables, and it's just not something I used to do as much, because even if I ran around and did them, I never logged them. Now with the app, I get to log them.
Right.
Even with that, there were people still this last weekend going around with their notebooks.
Yeah, we still found people. But you're right, though. There's
well, one of the things that people don't realize is that with TB Scan, you can actually export that list. So they're doing it in the notebook to be old school or whatever, but also to share it with the rest of their party. So you can export that list from TB Scan, send it to the rest of your party, and then they can use something like Project GC to log all of those.
Oh, cool.
On the maze this weekend, they took a different approach to it too. They had several trackables in the maze.
Wow.
But they also
400, I think, wasn't it? 400?
300 or 400, something like that. But they also had a QR code that they handed out to people, and you could just scan it, and it was the whole list. So you could just go over to log them all or Project GC instead of everybody sitting there trying to do every single one. So even the maze took that approach to it, bulk logging.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and one of the tricks that I've done for my show is, I've got the different trackable up every week back here, and there's a spreadsheet that you can find if you know what you're looking for.
Cool.
And you can just highlight the whole column, copy those, and paste them in.
There you go.
Nice and easy.
And really, that's probably how it's evolved for me over the last 3 years, is from trackables being, something you may or may not find in a cache, to people using those codes to hide them everywhere, from treasure, or on podcasts. And Gary just updated his book, and I just put out a book, and of course I hid trackables in that book, and Gary hid one in his too. And you kind of expect to see them hidden around different places, and people using them very creatively. And I like that. Not every trackable number now is actually associated with a physical item all the time that you go see out in the wild. They are hidden in different places, which is kind of fun. It adds a new game, another game.
Well, the trackables in the cache have definitely fallen off. You don't really see them much, if at all, anymore.
Right.
But the trackables have kind of become the replacement for a virtual cache, but in a whole different way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Isn't there also, and you guys would know better than I would, but can you, I think one time you mentioned, Jesse, that is there a challenge to finding a certain number of trackables? I mean, you can't do that anymore.
Not currently, but old ones, yes.
Okay. So pre-moratorium, you could do a challenge cache where you had to find a certain number of trackables.
Discover, there was discover and move and own. There were all kinds of different stats that they were using on that.
Cool. Yeah. Well, once in a while, and talking about things from the past 3 years, geocaching.com with the different things that they've done recently, the planetary pursuit, and there's been this whole themed carnival, cache carnival, and these different things they've done. There was a couple of them early on where they wanted you to, and of course a lot of people abused it, but the idea was, hey, we'll give you a point, I think, if you log a trackable or something. So people take all their 30 trackables and dump it into a cache and then pull. It's like, that's not what this is supposed to be.
No, but a big reason for doing that was if you were in an area where you didn't have access to caches as readily, like I've cached out my area.
No, you're right.
Then you had some way that you could do the point systems.
Yeah.
Right. And people are always going to abuse every system because cachers find a way to get around every rule.
Yeah. And they've edited that. So now, when you're dropping the trackables, it has to be one you don't own.
Right.
So, there you go.
Which I thought that was a good addition to it. And that is one big change, though, right? The friends and leaders board.
Yeah.
What are they calling it currently? The scoreboard?
Well, yeah, it was the friend league for a while, and then it's like
for the Mary Hyde event, they launched it as the friend league, and it stayed the same way forever. And I haven't actually gone back to check what it's at now.
Y'all keep
I actually like that, and I
what
think we could probably talk about that for quite a while. But I think that's a good new addition. They're trying some new stuff, which I think is good.
Oh, absolutely! It's a great idea. It adds a little bit more community to the game.
Yeah, it's just now called Your Leaderboard, and when you go into it, it just says Leaderboard.
I wish there were some more options on that, and they might be coming at some point, but I don't even know what those options are.
But you know what? And so that's going to get into what we want to see coming up. But I do think we're going to have to, because of this trackable conversation, have a show soon about trackables.
Yeah,
because I have some interesting opinions on that people disagree about, but guess what? It's my trackable, so I do what I want with it. But,
right.
But that's for another show.
No, that's good. That's true. Take a drink because that's for another show. Yeah. No, you're right. I like it.
So kind of moving from there to what you just alluded to, what would you like to see going forward then? Some options added to that.
Darryl?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what those options would be, but I'd love the ability to do some games on your own. So maybe it's not even just personally, because that would probably be really tough. But could you imagine like a Geo Woodstock setting up games around the event that tie in with that leaderboard?
That'd be great.
Oh, yeah, it would be cool. I see what you're saying.
Or if you could just select who is on your team, right?
Yeah, teams would be something that would be awesome. So right now it's just
like
all of your friends
or whatever.
Sure, but if you could group this is the Detroit team. This is the Houston team. So that you
Right.
had these different teams of your friends, and then go and battle against each other. That would be a lot of fun.
What if you could do state teams? What if they did a competition between states? That could be pretty fun.
Right.
Maybe
or even countries.
counties.
And you could trick it up maybe too. Sometimes you could make maybe this team is for this event, and then you could do something. You could tweak it periodically. But I like your idea of having a little more control over all that.
Yeah, it's really, really tough to do that kind of stuff. So who knows if they even could off of the existing system. But I'd love to see something like that.
I do want to mention real quick, as we're kind of getting into some other items, and I think people are like, "Hey, you said you're going to give away some coins." We are giving away coins tonight. I want to mention that we're going to do it here in a few minutes, but we got some more things we want to discuss. But I've got 4 coins here. 4, count them, 4 coins to give away from the maze. So I got 2 of the gold, and I got 2 of the regular. And I'm not going to show the backs because it's got I'll show one of the backs. I'll cover it
Just
up.
Put your finger over the code.
Right. So there you go. I just had to get, because they're all different, so I can't hold them in the right spot. So there's a couple of those. What we're going to do here in a few minutes is we're going to do 2 live. We're going to do 1 audio, and the other audio is going to be specifically for international. So the only people that can get the 4th one is overseas, or international, anything outside the U.S. So anyway, back to
Ryan just won one because he had the right answer.
Oh, did he already?
42.
Okay,
It's the beginning of life and everything.
There's one down. We got 3 more.
No, it doesn't work that way. Sorry,
doesn't work that way. All right. So what
Josh
also
ask, is Minnesota still international?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, Minnesota is part of Canada.
Well, so Darryl, last week when Joshua came down, I picked him up from the airport, and so I get to the airport and I look on the board and I'm like, okay, where is this? And I asked him, it's like, it's D6. Like, where am I in the right? Because I'm, I usually I can find a, and he's like, oh, that's international. It's over in the international arrivals. I'm like, okay, I'll go over to international arrivals. So that was the joke, is that it's like, is Minnesota now like part of Canada?
Yes, it is. It's been annexed by Canada.
We had to sell it to make up some debt.
Make some money. That's good. I like that. All right. So what are some other, or do we want to switch over to what we want to never see change? Is that, let's do that.
Or you want to do one of the giveaways?
No, I'll do the giveaways also. We'll do the giveaways all at the same time. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about what are some items, because we talked about some things we'd like to see. What are some things we want to never see go away?
Oh, that one's a tough one.
It is. I'll start us off, and let me explain before everybody hangs up. I don't want to see physical caches go away. Now, I like that they're bringing out virtuals again.
Right.
But virtuals are also cool because they're rare. And my favorite types of caches are the physical containers. So I like the ARs, but they're still a physical container at the end. So
right.
I hope we stay in the direction of geocaching. Seems to be real fond of most geocaching types that we have lead to a physical container.
Right.
I like that. I think we had this discussion this last weekend or whatever when we were hanging out, but I like the act of finding a physical container at the end. So I hope we add AR. I hope that stays around. Bring some virtuals out every once in a while, but I definitely like the physical container component, and I hope we don't go away from that in an attempt to advance the game.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to go away. Geocaching has been very adamant that it is all about the physical caches. The earth caches are an exception. The virtual caches are rare and in between.
Right.
The lab caches, pretty much. Lab caches, and now the adventure labs were a solution that they were looking at and continue to look at. And essentially we're now in the beta 2 phase of that one as adventure labs.
Right.
It's maybe getting a little bit closer to a real product So who knows where that's going.
Sure.
But I don't want to say that I don't want to, or that I not want to see them away. I just don't want to ever see them relegated to like a third tier.
Okay,
But
right.
my thing that I have problems with geocaching is that there is no revisitability. You can't go back to the same cache again.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
So
That's
that's my problem with it.
right.
You know, like Ingress is all about going back to the same points all over again. Same with Pokemon Go. Same with a bunch of these games. So you're encouraged to go to new spots, but I can still play on a daily basis because I can go and do those same spots that I hit every day at lunch.
Right.
You can't do that with geocaching. And
No, you're right.
Problem.
Yeah, it's true.
So I do want to see something that might address that. And I don't think the Adventure Labs are there, but I could see them morph into something that would let you do that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I you know, that kind of gets back into the what we want to see. I'd love to see more icons, but I know that there's issues with trying to add more icons. That's
Well, and you don't want to get into the point of icon bloat.
Sure.
Right.
No, I'm with you. Or changing the DTs, there's a lot. There's a lot of
the changes in the game. Back when I started, people would change the DT ratings based on the season.
Yeah.
Now with stats, you don't dare do that because people are going to get very upset.
Yeah, because so many people are looking at it.
So there's something I would like to see, not in the not go away category, but in the actually like to see is once you submit a cache, it's locked. Stop changing names and DT ratings, and that messes with so many stats. We all play based on stats, right? Whatever your personal opinion is.
Another thing too is it was largely the topic for this last Geo Gearheads is refreshing the game board. We have too many of these caches that just sit there in poor condition, or sometimes they're still in good condition, but no one hits them.
Sure.
We need to have a way to start filtering these out.
So you're talking about caches where they're just out there and the cache owner's not even there anymore, or
not necessarily. The cache owner might be there. You know, I just archived a cache myself because it hasn't gotten a whole lot of logs in the last year.
Right.
So I opened that space up for someone else to put something. They haven't done it yet, and it's been like a couple of months, but you know, hopefully someone else is going to do it so I can find something.
And
I have a few more that I need to do the same thing.
Right.
And that's a hard topic, right? Because definitely here where I am, there's some caches that only get hit once a year. Right? Because they're out and they're way out. But those are caches that don't get hit because of the terrain and things like that. But there's definitely a lot of, I think we called them zombie caches or geolitter out there. I'd love to see a way to clean that up where, you know, when people are out of the game, either it has to get adopted by somebody, you know, locally, or it's gone after a while. Because people will keep replacing caches that were not even quality in the first place. And it fills up the board and the proximity issues come into play. And I think it really gives a bad name to the game when you find a bunch of junk out there that nobody's maintaining. So if they had a way to do that without stepping on people, that would be great.
And that's where the risk comes in, is trying to figure that out. And it gets a lot more challenging because you've got those unique DTs that maybe need to stick around so that people can finish their fizzies. You have the unique dates that, you know, you need for the Jasmers. But there's also that question of, is this a unique or memorable cache in some other way? You know, is it the oldest in the state? Is the first gadget cache in the state? And that's not the kind of thing that you can really do.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah.
There's ways to work that out, though.
Sure. But it's not the kind of thing that you're really going to be able to do as like an automated system. You know, Munzie, for instance, if you have 2 DNFs, you have a week, I think it is, before it's automatically archived.
So what if the cache owner has not logged in for a year, it moves into an adoptable status for the next 30 days?
And there they become, or there you get into a whole other set of issues about ownership of the cache. You can delist it. That you know, that would be fine. But if you're opening it up for adoption, then you run into the legal issues over property.
Well, I think the way to get around that would be when people are signing up, they agree that if they abandon the game, that their cache goes up for adoption.
They could change the right.
Yeah, and I don't know
Change
that
that on the
that's
front end, but I think
legal
they could. There's got to
in
be a
every
way to work that
state
out,
or
right?
country. So it gets into some hairy situations that they probably don't want to deal with over at geocaching.com.
Oh, I'm sure they've got enough
possible.
Delisting is nice and easy. That they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've noticed at least around here, or for me personally, and this is this is definitely for another show, but I'm trying to be more aware of, obviously take care of my caches, but I'm trying to also look at some and go, and I've been doing this lately. I've been putting a lot of needs maintenance, and I just put this geocache needs TLC, and my hope is that the cache owner will see it and actually go give it some TLC, give it some tender loving care. There have been a couple that I jumped out there. I said, look, it's the cache owner had been on for 2 years, and there's the DNFs are piling up. It's time. The market needs archive.
Yeah, I was going to say, in those kind of cases, you really do need to post the needs archived.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to do that.
Yeah, GSM times 2 was a guest on the last show, and he has an article that he put together that's going to be in the FTF Geocacher coming out.
Oh, good.
And that's kind of what triggered the discussion. But I think the discussion, it's a great discussion to have, and it's one that I think we need to have much more often on these kind of shows, to try to get people thinking about it. When do I need to archive my own caches? Why do I need to archive my own caches?
Right.
I know of people who are, as soon as it gets a need maintenance log, it's archived. Well, I'm not sure that that's actually a good answer either.
No, not.
Well, in the chat room, Bounce just mentioned that he just archived some of his, so he can just refresh the area, basically.
Sure.
Right.
Well,
and
which is good, right? If you have a certain area, and especially if it's saturated, if everybody in that area has already found it and you want to get rid of it after a while, I think that's okay. And past, not in a week, right? But if it's been out there for a long time and everybody's gotten it, and you want to put out something new for people to find, I think that's a good time to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's for another show.
That's for another show. Darryl's catching on.
Man, we're wearing them out in the chat room tonight. They're gonna fall. They're not gonna make it at the end of this one.
Right. Hope nobody's driving after this, because
That's right.
We do not support that, by the way. We do not. All right, last item, and then we're gonna give away 4 coins, and then talk about. Well, let's just do that. Let's just give away the coins, and then because we've got a little bit of talk afterward. I want to talk briefly about 2020. Because there's going to be a lot of discussion about 2020. We can't cover tonight, but I want to at least give you guys a chance to sort of give a couple brief thoughts about 2020. So, all right, first question. So, Jesse, are you ready to go? You're in the chat room. You ready to?
Yep, I am ready.
All right, first coin, and we're gonna give away.
So what's the format that you need before you ask the question? Give them the format, because they'll be blasting in as soon as we do it.
They will. So the format for the first question is, I need a month. I need month. This is because this is live. This is the live question. Month, date, and year.
Ooh.
I need all of it. I need month, date, year. If you want to do month, date, and 2019 or whatever, that's fine. If you want to just do 19, however format you want to do it in, but I need the month, the day, and the year. Okay. So here we go. This is a tough one. This may take a while for people to research, but hey, the good thing about doing a question like that, and Darryl knows this, is there's a delay. So it gives everybody kind of a chance, because it's a delay a little bit on there. So, all right, first live question. This is for
several answers already, by the way.
Well, right. Sorry. If you answered once, you're done. No, I'm kidding.
No.
But we're gonna give away the first gold coin, which is the GPS Maze,
which is a very cool coin.
Oh, that is awesome.
That's actually the first coin I bought in quite a while.
Right, is the GPS maze gold coin. I've got another GPS maze we'll give away here in a second. So there's that one. And the question is, what date did Jesse join the show as co-host? I need the month, the day, and the year. Don't say Sunday because that doesn't work.
That's a good answer, though. I like that one.
Sunday doesn't work. The show doesn't work. You need month, day, and year. And hopefully you're paying attention because I told you the month, day, and year already. You don't have to give me the show number. That's not the question.
Dang. How did they do that so fast?
I don't know. Somebody get it?
Yes. 2 people already said the answer.
Sweet. Who was the first?
Albedo 0.39.
Okay,
who
very
we just
good.
talked to recently.
That's right. Albedo 0.39. You are the winner of this coin. By the way, do you know what Albedo 0.39 is? That's a good Darryl. Do you know what that means? Are you familiar with the This is a cool thing. Let me make a note real quick while we're doing that. While I'm telling you about this, I had no idea what it meant. But if you Google albedo, it has to do with the Earth, and albedo 1 is like completely dark. Albedo 0, complete light. I may be getting this wrong, but you can get the idea. You can Google
the portion of the incident light or radiation that is reflected by a surface, typically that of a planet or moon.
Right. And what's 0.39? It's the Earth. Isn't that great? I love that. So, yep. Now, what's interesting also is they as they were heading back through, they came through my town, and the pressure was on because podcaster, he better have some geocaches out there that are at least halfway decent. And they found a couple of mine in town. I think they were pretty happy. I got favorite points, so I feel privileged that some folks found my caches and gave them favorite points. So I feel like mission accomplished on that. So,
absolutely.
All right, next live question, number 2.
You're gonna have to explain this one as well too, because the answers will come fast.
I know they do come in fast and furious.
For individual, or do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah, no, I'll ask. Yeah, you're right. I'll explain. We're gonna give away this coin.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the maze coins, and I think I showed it a minute ago, but it's got the cool maze backdrop. And they built this, by the way, Darryl. It was really cool. They built this whole thing out front. Did you ever see it, Jesse?
Yes, I did.
This? I didn't see it we went to the maze like 3 times for various reasons, and I was like, where is that? I finally found it, but it was like, oh, that's really cool. They built a giant one so people could take their photo in front of it and everything. So anyway, enough of that. Here's the question. And I need there's only one specific answer for this question. But it's tricky, so you need to really listen carefully. How many Podcast of Hope shows have there been? Not ours. Podcast of Hope shows, but not ours.
And I'll give you a hint. It's not 42.
It's not 42. Don't count up the hours, although I did split them up a lot of times into audio hours. But as far as if you go to YouTube and you look for Podcast of Hope, you're going to find a certain number of shows.
Sherry was the first one. Sherry Siler.
Okay. Sherry.
There was a lot come in really quickly, though.
A lot of 3s. Yeah, it was 3.
Threw a lot of people off with 4 because they're thinking about this year.
Yeah, not this year yet. We haven't done we've only done 3 shows.
And somebody said 123. So that's very ambitious, but we have not.
Right. But we've done 24
Maybe
hours.
That was guesses 1, 2, 3. There you go.
Right. There you go. 1, 2, 3. Yep. So Sherry, send us an email to, I think I probably have your info, but just in case, send it to geocachetalk@gmail.com and we will get that coin sent out to you. All right. 2 more. This next one is for audio listeners, and everybody's available for that. It's international or domestic, US plus. So anybody in the world can get this one, but it's for audio. You have until next Saturday, let me pull up my thing here. So I need an answer by June 8th, 2019, before the clock flips over to June 9th. So by midnight, June 8th, 2019, I'll need an answer to this question. And that is, and we're going to be giving away this coin. It's similar to the last one. It's a little different. It's got kind of a wild maze thing on the back. It's a little different than the.
That's the locations of the mazes, right?
Is it? Okay, cool. Yeah. So,
That's what I thought that was on the back.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. So,
and then the red one was the current one.
Right, and there's the current one. Oh, yeah. See, it has little dots on it. That's pretty slick. Oh, I like that. That's a neat idea.
There's a lot that went into that design.
There is. Yeah, very cool. So this is for audio, but everybody's available to send in your answer to geocachetalk@gmail.com. The answer or the question is that we need an answer to is, where did Jesse and Gary first meet in person? Where was it? What event? So that is the audio question. geocachetalk@gmail.com for that one. And last one tonight is another one of the gold ones. This is a gold one and has this similar to the other one, but this is for international folks outside the US. The question for this one, and this is definitely something you would know if you listen to the show. Almost any week you get to hear this answer to this question, which is, what is Jesse's favorite cache type? Not the ones he hates. Oh, we've already got some answers too. Thank you for sending your answers in already. I'm seeing some popping in. Oh, cool. Not the one Jesse doesn't like or the one that he's put out the most. What is Jesse's favorite cache type? Send your answer to geocachetalk@gmail.com, and I will be screening that for just our international listeners. All right. Back to you two. I don't know who wants to go first for this question as we start to wrap up tonight, but plans for 2020 is it too far off to even think about?
No, I already put in for the days off from work, but I can only do a week at a time. So it's just going to be the two big events.
The 2020 and the Project Ape?
Yeah, no, the 2020, the Project Ape. And then the following weekend is going to be the Geo Woodstock.
Right.
So I'm going to take off the week in between and spend the 2 weekends. Yeah.
Right. So you strategically did the week between, so you can do weekend to weekend, like 9 days in there. So yeah.
Right.
So you're going to miss.
I think I requested the Friday before off as well to make it out in time and not be a zombie, but we'll see how that goes.
Right. So you might miss a few of if there's anything prior to I don't know if there really be anything prior to 2020.
I think we're going to see a lot of events before and after.
Oh yeah.
But as I understand from Chris of the Northwest, you're looking at like a 3-hour drive from Seattle to the Giga event, or I'm calling it a Giga already, the Geo Woodstock event.
Right.
So you're better off to, move around and not stay in one spot while you're doing that.
Sure. Yeah, I did notice the Fraser Valley. You're looking at something that is actually, ironically, you have to go look, but it's southeast of Vancouver. So it's really pretty close to the border. So, interesting. But you're right. If you're going to do events prior to an event, you're better off, in my opinion, doing events before Geo Woodstock. And some I'm sure will say that I'm wrong, but I'm just saying, for me personally, and you guys can comment on it, but I have found that I prefer the events, what am I going to call them? The side events before Geo Woodstock are really cool usually. The 20th celebration to me is cool to be at, but I don't think you necessarily have to. I mean, you can make gosh, you can make a month out of the whole thing. But
Sure.
I don't know, Jesse.
Well,
what are your?
I'm excited because I did the 10-year, so I have to go out there. And for people, like my wife hasn't done the trifecta, so this is going to be her chance to do that as well.
Right. And cool now that, I mean, it's been out for a little while, but you got the ape caches back, which I know it's been out there for a little while now, but some people don't necessarily are able to get out all the time. So Jesse, what are your thoughts?
I am going to be up there for as much as possible for 2020.
Right.
My list is huge of just regular caches I need to get up there. It could be an icon fest for me.
Right.
Because ape, whatever the 2020 icon special thing is, plus Giga, which the Canadian one's going to be Giga. So that's 3 icons already that I can get.
But you already have the Giga. Oh, wait a minute. You don't have the Giga, do you?
Yes, we all know that I don't have the Giga.
Just kidding.
There's your chance. There's so many things. I've been wanting to go back to Seattle for a while now, and I've been holding off and waiting for 2020. So plus I'm going to go and make myself sick eating Kinder Eggs when I cross the border, and just the caches and all that whole area, plus all the old ones that I haven't gotten yet. I'm going to try to be up there as much as I can for that week and a half. Kind of, I'm going to save up some time. And the only bad thing is, it's August is hard if you work in the school system. So it's going to be a tough sell to my bosses, but maybe I can just get in trouble and get suspended for a couple weeks or something. I don't know. I come up with a plan.
Strategically.
Well, and I've heard from quite a few people that this unfortunately falls right when they're going back to school.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's our problem now that my wife works as she's a school teacher, and we have major issues for us, but I applaud what they're doing, but I wish they would have spread. I just wish they would have kind of spread all out. I understand the idea behind putting them all together, and we're going to talk about that as time goes on. We got
there's tons of stuff. I don't
got a year.
Don't forget that there are going to be the satellite events. There's going to be I'm assuming we're going to mimic what they did for the Lost and Found events, where there's like 1 or 2 weekends that you can have events outside. So you'll be able to go and do more than one event for the 20th.
Right. And there's a lot of discussion. We're not going to get into tonight. We don't have time, but we've got things that Jesse and I are been involved with for something we'll talk about in the future for 2020 that we want to announce later. And you got all the other cool events. I mean, we don't want to forget going caching and ASP, and I'm going to leave one out, I'm sure, but you've got all these other cool events in the US, plus a lot of cool events even overseas that we don't even necessarily have time, like I said, to talk about. Some people are like, I'm going to X numbered, mega over in, different parts of the world, so there's going to be a lot for 2020, and we'll just have to kind of talk them all as we go. But all right, let's kind of wrap up. Darryl, I'll start with you. What are some of your thoughts on our little podcast of 3 years?
I don't even really know where to go with that one, because it's so much has changed, and yet so little has changed.
Sure,
that it's kind of tough. But I really think that we're going to see a lot more change probably in the next 3 years than we did in the first 3 years.
Right. No, I hear you. It's sometimes hard to predict that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I think we're going to probably see some changes in podcasting itself, as well as in geocaching over the next year or two.
Yeah, that's really a whole other show as well. And once in a while, I know Darryl will get an email from me, and I go, Darryl, what are we going to do if Hangouts on Air go away? What are we going to do? What do we do? So he gets my panic emails periodically, and Daryl's like, "It's okay, Gary. It's gonna be all right. Just calm down. We'll work it out."
Well, the Googles give us plenty of reason to worry,
to panic, right? Yeah, we never know, but it'll all work out somehow. somewhere. So,
oh yeah.
All right. Jesse, I'm gonna let you have the final word, and I'll mention about some of our upcoming shows. So I guess give us a wrap up of the past 3 years on the show, and thank you so much for being part of the show for as long as you've been on. So
Well, it's been a lot of fun the last 3 years, and I think I'm looking forward to what we have planned in the future. We've kind of talked offline about some of the things over the next 15 to 18 months that we've got planned.
Right.
I know that we want to keep, obviously, we're going to keep the show going, but I mean, I know we want to keep adding more things to the geocaching universe,
Right.
be it books, games, blogs, vlogs, all that stuff. Anything that can help out in education and, you know, any of those things that we can do because it's really shaped and changed. I know for both of us as we talked through it, geocaching for us. We've gotten really a lot more invested in the geocaching community. It's not just a single game for us anymore. I mean, there's a whole community around that we're connected with every single day. And every time we get to travel and meet more people, it really makes geocaching, a bigger part of our lives than it was before. At least for me, before I started the podcast. So I love the podcast. I love being on this show, and I can't wait to see what we're going to try in the future. I hope more of them succeed than fail.
Yeah,
with our experiments.
But we're going to try.
That's all you can hope for, right? So,
yeah.
We got some big things coming up planned, which seem like they're going to be a lot of fun, and we'll kind of get to those coming up in the next few weeks. Yeah. And I hope we just continue to add some value to the geocaching community.
No, I agree, and you really have been a real asset to the geocaching community, and so thank you too. You two have been very very influential in many different ways that we've talked about as far as getting this little podcast rolling down the road, and now with our network. And like you said, we've talked about the next 15, 18 months. We've got some pretty bold plans, and I think people are going to enjoy what's going to be happening for us and a lot of our plans. And again, as people know, we're going to shoot. We're going to be swinging for the fences, and if we strike out, that's okay. We'll be back up to the plate trying something different.
Oh yeah,
and that's the beauty of. I think a lot of people applaud us getting out there and swinging hard, and once in a while we hit. So we're hoping for that. All right. So next week, show 152 starts off our 4th year, and we're going to talk about the new Virtuals 2.0, which will be out soon, and we have some ideas. We have some ideas of where we'd like to see some, so we're going to talk about that. In 2 weeks, we're going to have on Russell Korfman, who's part of the Lonely Cache website, and something we even talked about tonight a little bit is lonely caches and what we would kind of what we see and what we like. We like the intrigue of a lonely cache, and so we're going to talk about that. And of course, in 3 weeks, good timing for us for sure. Brian Roth will be on the show, and we're going to talk about the 20 years of geocaching and pick his brain a little bit. And maybe we could, I don't know, trick him into get him to tell us a little bit about what's going on. But no, we'll talk to Brian, and it'll be fun to kind of talk about the last 20 years and talk about what we hope to see next year and going future from geocaching.com. So, all right. Well, thanks again, folks. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Email us your comments, geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, facebook.com/geocache talk. Show can be found iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, and the Geocache Talk website, geocachetalk.com. And don't forget to click on the subscribe button below. And I remember where it is now. That's Joshua taught us. It's in this corner, unless it's that corner, but I'm wrong. It might be this corner. Either way.
It's one of the corners.
Click on the subscribe button below and ring the little bell there, and you'll be notified when we have the show is up, and you can see and hear the show on a weekly basis. And until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. You need to go geocaching. Good night, everybody.
Good night.